Hello again, wise wizard, and I have a story to tell you. It is called The Turmoil of Dragons, written by me. Our story begins with Elizabeth walking down the roads of her town in 1920, her stuffed dragon limply swaying forwards and backwards as she skipped. She looks up to her father with wonders in her eyes and asks him, "Daddy, whatever happened to all the dragons? I see them all the time in my books, but I've never seen them in person." The father paused a little bit. He was an old elf who'd lived long enough to know what really happened, yet decided to remain vague. "Well, sweetie, they disappeared one day, ran off to new lands," Dale explained.
"Well, can we see them someday?"
Elizabeth persisted, and the father paused a moment to try to distract her. "Oh, hey, we could grab some ice cream, and then He got interrupted by his daughter.
"But I want to see the dragons!"
She shouted, annoyed, and the father sighed and started to bring her somewhere else, to the History Museum. Inside, there were statues of dragons abound, with some being real taxidermies. The daughter, however, was not impressed.
"But I wanted to see real, living dragons like in my books. These are all dead."
She pouted and released her grip on her father and ran to a corner of the museum. The father sighed deeply and walked up to the front counter to pay for the tickets, despite the daughter being less than interested.
"You know, the dragon puppet show is today. She might like that."
The attendant said as he stamped the tickets and handed them off. Oh gods, please, anything to make her happy. The attendant wandered over to the daughter and crouched beside her.
"Hey now, don't be upset. There's a dragon show happening today. You don't want to miss that, do you?"
The daughter's eyes lit up as she bounded to her feet and ran up to her father, took his hand and went inside without a word, just a gleaming smile on her face.
"Come on, Daddy. I want to see the dragons."
Elizabeth shouted and squealed with glee, causing her father to contract some of her contagious joy. "Settle down, sweetie. The dragons are not going anywhere." The father chuckled a little as they ran over to the puppet stage tucked in the far corner past the statues, taxidermies, and books. With a bound, Elizabeth sat down on one of the throw pillows in front of the stage, and Dale sat next to her a little more carefully. The show was beginning. The stage that sat before them was gigantic, so big a real dragon could sit on it. And that is what Elizabeth thought she was about to see. Soon, the show began. The curtains unfurled and revealed a mighty green dragon puppet animated by magic. It was convincing enough for the kids, and the adults could even admire the craftsmanship. It roared and bellowed like a real dragon. It shot out magical fire. It stomped around the stage and knocked down a miniature castle. Most of the kids enjoyed the display. Yet Elizabeth was shocked.
It's not like the ones in my books,"
she muttered softly and petted her stuffy. The father, now in a bit of a panic, realizing the plan had gone awry, and tried to comfort her. "Well, sweetie, not all dragons are good. They're like people. Some are good, some are bad." This did not convince her, and she was still sitting there upset. Then, from the broken rubble, a knight emerged and charged the dragon. The dragon swiped at the knight, but he dodged and leapt into the air and sliced the dragon's head off, leaving a pile of stuffing in the air. Dale was horrified. Elizabeth was in tears and ran away. Elizabeth, wait. I did not realize that's how it would end." He ran after her, but she'd already left the building and taken a few turns away. "Call the police. I don't know where she went." Dale said to the attendant who used the museum's phone, but Elizabeth had fled to the woods. Who knows what could be in there? The child ran deeper and deeper into the woods. She was running to where she usually goes. She sniffed and cried the whole way before she gingerly sat by a small pond and set her stuffed dragon beside her, curling into a ball with her head between her legs.
She lied to me.
She sniffled before raising her head and looking into the pond. She grabbed a rock and tossed it in, tears still streaming down her face. But through the ripples of the water, a large head poked in and looked through the pond. It was a great blue dragon. Elizabeth grabbed her plush and shot to her feet, paralyzed with fear. They are real as they ever can be, and it was just a few feet away from her.
No, you can't be real. You're another fake.
She shouted aloud and threw a rock at the dragon. It made a hard, clanking sound as if a rock struck another rock. It was not made of fabric and stuffing like the fake. It was made of real scales and flesh. Elizabeth felt really stupid and afraid all of a sudden, but the dragon just looked down at the rock and back at Elizabeth. What was that? What was that for? The dragon muttered as it lowered its head, not in a threatening tone, but just a curious one.
I thought you were fake, just like the last one I saw.
She muttered a bit while looking to her feet, rolling her ankle over in the dirt. The dragon chuckled deeply with this remark. Well, I can assure you I am very real. He took another step closer to the shallow pond, but Elizabeth was still worried and took another step back. She never actually thought the day would come. And now that it has, she's a little scared. I won't hurt you. I am a gentle dragon. I know we have not garnered the best reputation, but most, if not all of it, was due to bias. We are not all evil creatures hell-bent on destroying humanity and everything it stands for. If anything, it was the people who wronged us to begin with. They broke treaties, killed my ancestors, and tried to bring an end to the age of dragons. He paused a bit before speaking again. Where are my manners? I am Martin. Elizabeth sat on a rock and looked confused and worried.
Did my daddy Dale have anything to do with that?
Martin simply nodded, and Elizabeth grew annoyed. He was a soldier, but don't go blaming him too harshly. He was just following an order like so many before him. It was those in higher command who caused a lot of the troubles. Elizabeth stood from her rock and wandered towards Martin and sat on his toe, just as the police entered the woods and located her along with Dale. But when they saw Martin, they all froze in place. Elizabeth stepped away from the creature. She furrowed her brow and angrily pointed at Dale.
You said dragons run off to a new world! Martin told me they were all killed!
Dale was in shock. He stopped in his tracks and looked to the officers, then to his daughter. Sweetie, please, understand. I just didn't want to upset you.
Well, now I am!
She pouted while grabbing onto Martin's leg. Martin looked down to the father and the police. If you want to make her happy, maybe you should let the exile and let me go back into town. Martin puffed out a small jet of ice.
Yeah, let him back!
Elizabeth retorted, and the police all looked to Dale, and Dale looked back to them. Fine. We will talk to the mayor. The group walked out of the forest with the dragon in tow and walked back into town, with Martin staying on the outskirts. Dale wandered into the mayor's office and made his proposals. Well, this is absurd! That dragon is in exile for a reason. He fought with the enemy and committed atrocities against us. And we didn't commit atrocities against them, Kenneth. He stopped and huffed. Fine, we'll hold it to a vote. The day turned to night and back to day again, and everyone in town piled into the town hall for a vote. It was fairly split for a while, with it being mostly equal show of hands. Yet when the final count was brought up, it was clear that the dragon would come back. The mayor sighed deeply, looked to Dale, and then Elizabeth. I hope you're right about this. He huffed deeply and walked back into his office. Elizabeth bounded out of the room with Dale struggling to follow after her. She ran towards Martin and hugged his leg.
The people say you can come back.
She squealed with glee as Dale finally approached the two of them with a warm smile. Dale, I say we can let bygones be bygones. You have shown me there's still faith to be had in people. The dragon smiled warmly and started to walk towards the village. And that is the tale of how a little girl and a dragon changed the minds of people in a village. Please follow me for more short stories and share your own stories in the comment sections. I have been Wise Wizard, and happy trails.